Be somebody, Maya. Don't just settle. That was the golden rule carved into every dinner conversation by my parents. They spent my entire 20s telling me I didn't measure up, that I wasn't ambitious enough, hungry enough, or successful enough compared to my golden child younger sister, Chloe. So, when they invited me to a lavish family dinner and announced they finally had a life-changing opportunity to get my career on track, I actually let my guard down. My dad slid an official-looking contract across the table with a smug smile. A $52,000 salary. Full benefits. I thought they were finally acknowledging my potential until I read the actual title line, Personal Executive Assistant to Chloe Vance. They didn't want me to be somebody. They wanted me to fetch coffee and dry cleaning for the sister who stole my startup idea. But what they didn't know was that I already owned the company funding her firm. Welcome back to BT Revenge Tales, where toxic entitlement meets cold, calculated payback. Hit that subscribe button, grab your popcorn, and let's get into today's story. My name is Maya Vance. I'm 31 years old, and for as long as I can remember, my worth in our family was measured strictly against my younger sister, Chloe. Chloe was 27, polished, and treated like a delicate prodigy who could do no wrong. I, on the other hand, was the quiet older sister whose work-from-home consulting projects were dismissed as a cute little hobby. That Tuesday evening, my parents called me over to their favorite upscale steakhouse, claiming they had major news that would finally solve my lack of direction. Over expensive wine. My father cleared his throat, leaned forward, and slid a manila folder across the linen tablecloth. "Maya, we hate seeing you struggle," he said, wearing that familiar look of condescending pity. "Chloe needs support at her firm, so we convinced her to take a chance on you. $52,000 a year. Full medical." I opened the folder. The title read, Personal Executive Assistant to the Managing Director. They weren't offering me a leg up. They were treating me like cheap charity, expecting me to bow down and serve my sister for pennies. The bitter irony of that contract was almost unbearable. Chloe wasn't some self-made tech visionary. 2 years earlier, I had spent 10 grueling months building the operational blueprint for a boutique logistics platform. I mapped the entire architecture, calculated the profit margins, and shared it with Chloe during a casual weekend visit. A week later, she pitched my exact model to our parents as her own brainchild. Instead of questioning the technical details, my dad wrote her a $250,000 seed check on the spot. When I confronted them with my original files, my mother waved a dismissive hand, telling me to stop being jealous of Chloe's entrepreneurial drive. They told me Chloe had the charisma to make it real, while I was just a background planner who overthought everything. I swallowed my fury back then, but sitting at that dinner table, staring at the assistant contract, something clicked. They thought I was desperate. They thought I was beaten. I looked up, forced a polite, humble smile, and picked up the pen. "Thank you, Chloe," I said smoothly, signing my name on the dotted line. "I'll see you Monday at 8. Monday morning arrived, and Chloe wasted no time testing her new authority. The moment I walked through the glass doors of Vance Logistics, she handed me 4 complicated drink orders and a bag of dry cleaning without even looking up from her phone. "Make sure the oat milk is organic, Maya," she announced loudly enough for the entire open plan office to hear. "And going forward, address me as Ms. Vance in front of the staff. We need to maintain strict professional boundaries." I didn't argue. I played the dutiful, meek assistant to perfection. But while Chloe spent her afternoons shooting aesthetic video clips for her social media to show off her boss babe lifestyle, she handed me her master administrative login so I could manage her schedule and organize internal files. That was her fatal mistake. With full backend access to the company servers, vendor contracts, and quarterly ledgers, the true picture emerged immediately. Chloe's firm was bleeding cash. Worse, I discovered an urgent default notice buried in her private inbox. Vance Logistics had missed 2 consecutive loan payments to their primary venture capital creditor, a firm named Aegis Ventures. The golden child was on the brink of complete financial collapse. Here is the secret my family never bothered to discover. When they handed Chloe $250,000 of seed money 2 years ago, I didn't curl up in defeat. Instead, I quietly launched an automated enterprise backend service. Within 18 months, it grew into an 8-figure asset engine managed under a private corporate shield called Horizon Holdings. 6 months back, when Vance Logistics desperately sought bridge funding to stay afloat, my investment arm stepped in through a subsidiary. That subsidiary was Aegis Ventures. In plain terms, I owned 60% of the convertible debt attached to my sister's company. Chloe had no clue her real boss was sitting 3 feet away, organizing her dry cleaning receipts. On Thursday afternoon, Chloe stormed over to my desk in a full panic. "The Aegis board called an unscheduled audit for next Monday," she whispered, her hands trembling. "Maya, I need you to clean up the slide deck. Make the client retention figures look promising. Blur the deficit line under projected expansion." She was ordering me to commit blatant investor fraud to cover her incompetence. "Don't worry, Ms. Vance," I replied with absolute calm. "I'll make sure the board sees every single detail clearly." Monday morning at 10 sharp, Chloe walked into the glass boardroom, wearing an immaculate cream designer suit. She pointed to a folding chair in the far corner. "Sit there, Maya. Take notes. Keep your head down and don't speak unless someone asks for water," she commanded, arranging her glossy pitch folders with practiced elegance. Moments later, the heavy oak doors opened. Arthur Pendleton, the senior managing director of Aegis Ventures, stepped inside, flanked by 3 corporate attorneys. Chloe flashed her brightest executive smile and extended her hand. "Mr. Pendleton, thank you so much for coming. I'm ready to present our quarterly numbers." Arthur walked straight past her outstretched hand. He looked at the far corner of the room, made direct eye contact with me, and gave a respectful nod. "Good morning, Ms. Vance. Shall we proceed?" Chloe let out a nervous, high-pitched laugh. "Oh, Arthur, that's just Maya, my assistant. I'm Chloe Vance, the CEO." I stood up, walked to the head of the conference table, and took the primary leather chair. "I know who you are, Chloe," I said, my voice cutting through the room like a razor. "And as the principal owner of Aegis Ventures, I'm here to review your default." The color drained entirely from Chloe's face as Arthur passed around the real financial ledgers I had prepared over the weekend. In front of the legal team, I systematically laid out 3/4 of fabricated performance metrics, misallocated operational capital, and the pending default on our debt covenants. Chloe tried to stammer out an excuse, but the evidence was ironclad. By 11:30, the board unanimously voted to exercise our restructuring clause, effectively terminating Chloe's employment contract and absorbing all operational assets under my direct management. She bolted from the room in tears. Not even 40 minutes later, my phone exploded with consecutive calls from my father. When I answered, his voice was practically shaking with rage. "Maya, what in God's name have you done?" he roared through the speaker. "Your sister is hysterical. How dare you humiliate her and ruin her career after everything our family has given you? You call that board back right now and fix this, or you are completely cut off from this family." I leaned back in the executive leather chair and let a cold silence settle over the line before speaking. "Dad, you spent years telling me to be somebody and never settle for second best," I said quietly. "I took your advice. I just stopped letting you choose my ceiling." I hung up on my father before he could reply and permanently blocked their numbers. Over the next 6 months, the dust finally settled. Chloe was forced to step down into a modest entry-level role at an outside marketing firm, learning for the first time what it actually takes to earn a living without mom and dad funding her mistakes. My parents tried sending mutual relatives to guilt-trip me into handing over company shares, but I refused to entertain the drama. I restructured the entire logistics firm from the ground up, implementing the original system architecture I had designed years ago. Unburdened by ego and nepotism, the enterprise turned profitable in its very first quarter under my leadership. Sitting in my corner office on a quiet Friday afternoon, looking out at the city skyline, I finally realized something important. Success isn't about proving yourself to people committed to misunderstanding you. It's about building your own empire on your own terms and letting the results speak for themselves.